Alright, this is Chat UTD. I've not done a video for a bit because there hasn't really been much to report and I don't want to do videos for the sake of it, but that said, I also don't want to leave it too long between videos either, so here we are. The summer, well the build up to the summer for the last however many years for Man United just feels very similar. Ahead of the summer, the United fans say things like, it's a big one, big summer coming up. Got so much to do. I know we said this last year, but this one really is important. What tends to happen then is the club get a deal done early. They then put it out to reputable sources that another deal is pretty much done. So the fans treat it that is done. And then they again put out to very reputable sources that there's more in the pipeline. And the fans then start to treat it as if we've got 4 or 5 players when in reality we've got 1. People start with the ridiculous rate this window when it's not based on reality. So this year how that reads is Cunha is the early signing, a good signing, undeniably a good signing. And Mbeumo is the one that apparently is done, but we can't afford to put him through before July because we haven't got any money. Probably true, I imagine we probably will sign Mbeumo, but we haven't signed him yet. And weeks have gone by without any movement on that. So he's the one that's kind of the sure thing. And then rumours galore of Gyökeres, Emi Martinez, possibly Osimhen, and all manner of different names besides. And as I say, then you get your fans saying, Ineos are cooking. Well, a few years ago, Woodward was cooking, or Murta was cooking, or Richard Arnold was cooking. The truth is, no one's cooking anything. The food's raw, and there's loads of food in the fridge that needs to be chucked out, which is a big problem as well. We've signed 1 player, and we need 6, but I'd say we're not going to get 6 because of the financial restrictions on the club. So bare minimum we need 4, and we've got 1. We just finished 15th. There's other clubs that have finished 1st, 2nd, 3rd who were going about their business, signing players, improving on what was already a good season for them. We finished 15th, we signed 1 player, we haven't got rid of anyone. And that's a big problem, not being able to get rid of players for various different reasons. Sometimes it's because they're on watertight contracts given to them by idiots at the club previously, so it's legacy damage. Sometimes they're injury prone, sometimes they're not good enough, and their reputation's been ruined by what they've done at United. Sometimes it's a bit of all of those things. But regardless of reason, we struggle to get rid of players. The general consensus is that we can afford Mbeumo, and obviously we've already got Cunha, without selling anybody. But anything else we do is going to have to be funded by sales of players. So who do we sell to generate those funds? Garnacho's the obvious one. We'd probably fetch between 40 and 50 million for Garnacho. I think he's worth more than that, and I think a year or so ago we'd have got a lot more than that, but reading between the lines, I think that's probably what we get for him. So let's say 40 million for him. Sancho, you're probably going to get about 20 for him. If you can get a shot of him. The problem is the wages. Sancho will end up being a journeyman football player, but he wants elite wages because United gave him elite wages all those years ago when we signed him. We've set a precedent, and he wants to keep that going. He's not the most humble of lads, is he? Then you've got Rashford, probably worth 30 million quid, but certainly not worth 300 grand a week. Again, not the most humble of characters, so I don't see him taking a pay cut. Certainly not a dramatic pay cut. Again, begs the question, who signed that off? Who signed 300 grand a week off? Who couldn't see that guy had an attitude problem? You're paid to know that stuff when you're part of a so-called big club at Manchester United. So we could generate 50 million, Sancho 20, Rashford 30, Garnacho 40, there's 90 altogether. Some people talk about maybe Højlund could go. What do you get for him? 30, 40? I'm not sure we will get rid of Højlund, because even if we bring a striker in, you want more than 1 striker. So I think you're looking at probably roughly fetching £100 million, and we need, at the very least, on top of Mbeumo and Cunha, we need a striker and a goalkeeper. My concern is that we will get, I think we will get Mbeumo, we will get Cunha. My concern is then that we won't get a striker, or we'll get a bargain basement striker or someone on loan. And we desperately need a proper striker. We needed a proper striker when we signed Højlund. He's not it. If you gave me a choice between Cunha and a striker or Cunha and Mbeumo, I'd go Cunha and a striker, because Cunha obviously is a very good player in that 10 role. I think there's others that can play in that role. We don't get anyone else who can play up front. Probably what Amrim's thinking is Cunha and Mbeumo between them last season, I think, scored 35 goals. That's not to mention the assists they got. So they probably had, in terms of goal involvements, more than 50 between them. It's not to say they definitely would add that, because you've got to transfer your form from Brentford and Wolves respectively to Man United, and that's not always possible. But let's just, again, be optimistic and say that can happen. So if you're getting 50 goal involvements, that's more than we scored in the entire league season last year. And he might well think, if they're supplying the bullets, Højlund could reinvent himself, could be the player we thought, well, hoped that we'd sign. And in his first season he scored, was it 15, something like that? Take that now, especially if you've got two 10s who are contributing significant amounts of goals and assists. But for me, we need a proper striker. And we desperately need a goalkeeper. It's a big issue. We are not good enough. We're not good enough to have a goalkeeper who costs you savable goals. And Onana falls into that category. The Premier League's tight. Games are won often by an odd goal. You can't, and we're not good enough to just give up goals because the goalkeeper throws them in. The one that springs to my mind, and there was plenty of them, but the one that really springs to my mind was Notts Forest before Christmas, when we lost 3-2. We actually played pretty well in that game, and we lost that game pretty much exclusively because Onana threw at least two in. Inexplicable. Can't legislate for that. Your game plan goes out the window when your goalkeeper is throwing balls in the back of net, literally throwing balls in the back of the net, but he's letting goals in which are inexplicable. So we're not good enough to withstand that. Not to mention, he isn't very good with his feet. Not at United, he hasn't been. His positioning, where he places his feet, is wrong. He consistently leaves the back post open for easy goals. And he's not a particularly good shot stopper. He doesn't come for crosses. He doesn't command his area. He ticks none of the boxes that you would need for a Premier League goalkeeper. So we need a replacement for him. And there's talk of Emi Martinez, and I think that'd be a decent move. He's Premier League ready, he's Premier League experienced. He's got a bit of shithousery about him, which I quite like. I don't think he'd phase him playing for United. I think he's quite sure of himself in a good way. But you're at the point where really anyone within reason is an upgrade on Onana. So mixed reports this week. Some people saying Onana's staying. Then today, Fabrizio Romano saying that United have made contact regarding Emi Martinez. Problem is now, and I don't want to be too cynical, but Mark Goldbridge calls it client journalism. Good sources that previously you trust, like Romano, like The Athletic, like Ornstein, they're being briefed by the club. And the club will put out spin to keep people quiet and keep people happy. They've just had the cheek to put the ticket prices for members up by an astronomical amount and categorise games so that pretty much most games are in a category, I think it's called category B, which the highest price, I can't remember what it was, is astronomical. There's no concessions now for young or old fans. So unless you've got a season ticket, it's starting already where they're alienating a big portion of the fan base. So they need goodwill, they need PR, and they're putting those stories out to reputable people. I don't necessarily believe it when Fabrizio Romano says anything now, when previously he was the oracle, really, regarding transfers. So the reality is we've signed one player. We haven't got rid of anybody. Part of that, I don't doubt, is down to the fact that we need to wait until July when the new football financial year starts because we're skinny. So there's nothing to panic about in that respect, but it just feels very much like we've been here before. That's why I'm sceptical about what United are going to or could do in the transfer market. And we were warned before the summer started, there's not a lot of money to spend. But people are acting as if, because we've signed Cunha and apparently we're definitely signing Mbumo, and there's rumours about others, that all of a sudden everything in the garden's rosy. Don't need to tell you it's not. In other news this week, Omar Barada said that he was asked a question about whatever it's called, Mission 21, where they want to try and win the league by 2028. I've struggled to say that without laughing, because that's the 150th anniversary of the club, and he was asked a question about it, and he said, obviously, it's unlikely given where we are right now, but why not have that as an ambition? And I'm all for setting goals, and I think to be ambitious and those things is positive. And I'm going to play a bit of devil's advocate. So in 1989 to 1990, United finished, I think, 13th. We won the FA Cup, but we finished 13th, and it's a not dissimilar season to the one we just had, although the one we just had was a bit worse. 3 seasons later, we were champions. So 90 to 91, we won the Cup Winners' Cup and we finished 6th and reached the League Cup final. 1992, we won the League Cup and we finished 2nd, and we should have won the league that year. 93, we won the league. So I guess if you look at that, you could say, well, it's possible, because 2028 is the same time frame. We've got 25 to 26, 26 to 27, 27 to 28, 3 seasons. Lots and lots of differences though. Back then, in 1990, after we just won the FA Cup, 3 seasons later we were going to be champions, Liverpool were on the decline. The boot room continuation that they'd had of managers was running dry. They got Souness in after Dalglish. It never worked. They were on the wane. Their time had been and gone. Arsenal were the ones that tended to win it when they didn't win it. Under George Graham, good team, but very pragmatic, not a lot about them. They certainly weren't a superpower that was going to dominate. There was no one else really around. It was a Man United shaped hole that was waiting to be filled, really, and we went ahead and did it. And that is backed up by the fact that in '92, when we were pipped to the title, it wasn't by a juggernaut. It was by Leeds, who, if I remember rightly, it was either their first or second season back in the top flight. In '93, when we won the league, the teams battling for it were Aston Villa and Norwich. Then in '93, '94, it was Blackburn. Then when we were pipped to the post in '95, it was Blackburn. Yeah, it's not football juggernauts that were up against us around that era. So there was a gap in the market for a big club like United, a sleeping giant, if you will. You fast forward to now, and I can think, well, we finished 15th, so effectively there's 14 teams that are ahead of us. But let's be sensible about it. And I think respectful to the other teams as well. But you've got Liverpool, City, Arsenal, the obvious ones, Newcastle, Chelsea and Villa are all significantly ahead of United. And there's others as well, but let's just say those 6. But particularly Liverpool, I don't think Liverpool will dominate. I think Slot will find it harder this season. And I certainly hope so. And I think they will find it harder. Don't know why, I just have a hunch. I don't think they will just continue to do what they did last season. I think it'll hit the skids for them. City are in a period of transition, but they've just spent an absolute shit ton of money over the last few months. That's what Pep does when things go wrong. He just spends money, but he generally spends it quite well. So again, they're not as good as they were, but they're streets ahead of us as a Liverpool. And Arsenal, perennial bottle jobs who don't get the job done. However, again, they are streets ahead of us. They've finished second 3 years in a row. They're getting better in Europe. They're spending money. They already have a much better team than us. If there's a gap, it's a Newcastle-sized gap. If Newcastle get an elite manager, I think they could be the ones that shed the skin of mediocrity that they've lived in for so long, and they could be the ones that go in there and win a title or 2. We are not even knocking on the door. We're not close. So if you're talking about a new club going in and winning it within the next 3 years, it isn't Man United. It's more likely a Newcastle. Chelsea are a basket case club. They might do something, but I'm not too worried about them. Villa are an of the now club who've done very well in the last couple of years, got a good manager, but it's very changeable. I don't see Villa being there for a sustainable amount of time. But that other four, they're streets ahead of us. And they're all doing their business. They're all proactive and they've got more money. And we're there. We're only able to do one signing. We're unable to get rid of anyone. So you're not going to upset the odds like that. Not to mention the fact that the shine of United, because of their history, is it's not as bright as it used to be. You will still get good players. Cunha's a good player. If we get Mbeumo over the line, he's a good player. But if you believe what you read, Gyökeres wants to go to Arsenal. If you look at the pool of players who go, oh, it's Man United, it's getting smaller and smaller. Whereas back in the day, like I was talking about then, 1990 until 93, it was Arsenal, Liverpool, and if it wasn't them, it was United. And we went and got Kanchelskis, who no one had ever heard of. We went and got Schmeichel. Most of Europe probably wanted him. Cantona came to us. Big players wanting to come and play for Man United. The big players in that era. As much as football's changed and the pool is bigger of the players you can attract, the pool of players we need, the quality of players we need, I don't think that pool is very big. And it's a pool where we're not the piranhas or the sharks here. We're way back in the pecking order. Just finally, I saw something just popped up. I think it was on my YouTube or Facebook feed. A snippet of an interview Sir Matt Busby with Michael Parkinson back in the 70s, and Sir Matt was asked by Parkinson about football being, I suppose, becoming more defensive and pragmatic and not as entertaining as it was, and he sort of said that's what he was all about, entertainment. Man United was all about entertainment, and he said he regretted that in the modern era it was a bit boring really to watch. And it made me think that was in an era when we were fading away. The entertainment that we had in the 50s and the 60s with the Busby Babes and the regenerated version of the Busby Babes after Munich was swashbuckling, fantastic, entertaining football. We set the tone of that, it seems. Maybe I'm biased, but I think we did. 70s, when we faded away, football became a bit dirty. It was pragmatic. It was seen as a bit boring, and I kind of feel like history's repeating itself. And maybe it's romanticism, but I think when we were at our best, we were playing brilliant football, entertaining football, wingers, goals, last minute, air 'em, scare 'em. At times quite flawed, at times quite fragile, but it perfectly imperfect. And you look at City over the last few years and the way they've won it, it's just boring. And Liverpool are boring. They're good, they're a very good team, respect to them, but it's boring. And I don't know, I think we bring that romanticism, we bring that swagger. And in that respect, there is a massive Man United sized hole in football that we need to get in and fill. But I go back to it all the time. We haven't got the right owners to do what we need to do. We haven't got the money, and we needed a clean slate. We needed the Glazers to leave, and even if it was Jim Ratcliffe, someone to buy the club in its entirety. And whilst we haven't got that, we're always going to be working with at least one hand tied behind our back, and also regarding the fan culture. As I said on videos here, we're heading towards a time when the average price of a ticket will be £100, and people will buy those tickets, but it won't be people like, I don't know who you are, but it won't be people like me, and it won't be people that I know who would go and get behind the team, who are fans who want to genuinely support the team. There's a big difference between a supporter and a spectator. and it's becoming a spectator sport. It's becoming customers, and you know, United, as I've said on here before, have always been pioneers. If anything, we should be pioneering getting an atmosphere back in the stadium. It's already sterile. It's going to get worse, and to put the prices up after everything that's gone on this season, both on and off the pitch, for me is in really, really bad taste, but they don't care. And ultimately therein lies the moral of the story. The owners of this football club don't care about what's right or what's wrong. And we're in this situation because we didn't get a full takeover. So there we go, bit of a catch up, and if anything develops in the next few days, weeks, whatever, I'll keep checking in. Maybe we'll do a feature video actually on 20 years of the Glazers. That'll be fun. Glazers out.